podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the number one way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
And welcome to another episode of The Cocktail Lounge. I am your hostess with the mostest, Aggie, and with me as always is the ever suave, affable, and quaffable co-host, Brad Slager. How are you doing this evening, Brad?
Running on fumes. Does that come close to describing where I'm at here? We're on little sleep, little recovery. Still worked all day, and I'm not bitching one iota because I spent most of the night celebrating.
I know you have a lot to celebrate about. Congratulations to the Florida Panthers on once again keeping the Stanley Cup in the U.S. where it belongs.
For the 31st consecutive year, Canada will not possess Lord Stanley's chalice. Yes,
I know. No, they won't.
They had to make it a bit dramatic, but I told a few people yesterday coming into this, I had 100% faith and 0% confidence. But the problem is between games 4 and 6, the Panthers just did not look like themselves. They were getting run over from speed because that's all that Edmonton really has. I mean, they got, some skill and stick handling. Sure. Okay, whatever. Mm-hmm. But I mean, they were just, racing past us. But the thing is that for the first 3 games of this series, Florida was just shutting down that manner of play from Edmonton. I mean, the forecheck was working. They were bottling them up in the central ice area because we were just playing everything correctly. And they let go of that. And so for 3 games, Edmonton just raced around. But last night, after the first period, it was tied 1-1. I felt good because the Panthers were right back to playing that style. They were physical, keeping them from exiting the zone cleanly. They were just controlling play for the most part. Their star, Connor McDavid, was ineffectual. Their other star, Leon Draisaitl, went the entire series without a goal, amazingly.
Whoa, seriously?
Yeah. And they looked proper last night. So they finally took it all the way and they won the game 2-1. And elation, I think, is the only proper description that I felt about this, because I've literally been there from day one. I was in the stands for the first ever professional game in South Florida. They played the Tampa Bay Lightning in a preseason game down in the Miami Arena 30 years ago. And yeah, it all culminated.
It's
beautiful.
I was following the on Twitter, on the whole game and everything, and I was reading the tweets that people were putting out under several hashtags, and it was funny for me to see because there were a lot of people who normally do not like the Florida Panthers saying they damn well better win because we do not want that cup going back to Canada. It was all about keeping the cup here. They did not care what team won as long as it was an American team.
Yeah, there's a lot of that harbored resentment in the game. I'm not really clean about it myself. I mean, I don't have a vested interest outside of our team winning it, but if it was Edmonton and the New York Rangers, for instance, I'd have a hard time pulling for the Rangers. I just got to be honest. And if it's Boston, yeah, I'd probably be the same. Tampa, I kind of have the same, they're our main rival because it's in state, and we had a beautiful series with them to kick off the playoffs. But even so, I think when they're playing, I have the same respect for them like I do for Florida State in college football, where it's, you always want to beat them, but you can still appreciate that they're good, and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Not like the Florida Gators. They're a bunch of baby raping sons of bitches, and they never accomplish anything of
Okay.
consequence.
I don't think I would go that far, but okay.
But
Holy cow.
It really was sublime, though, to watch it, because I've been a hockey fan forever. I've watched countless Stanley Cup celebrations on the ice, and just to see it finally be your team that throws their gear in the air, huddles up into one massive pile of sweaty skaters, and then eventually taken to the ice for the trophy lap around the rink. It's a completely different feeling, and it's just magnificent to watch. And we all just celebrated in the bar. It was loud. It was boisterous. We were drinking heavily. I came home and continued drinking and had a victory cigar. And then I just combed social media to watch all the celebration in the locker room and such.
And you paid for it today.
Yeah, but it's...
But you're the consummate professional. I mean, you are.
And
today.
The thing is,
you managed to work today and everything, so...
Yeah, I dropped in bed. It was like 4:30 in the morning before I came in. I was the first one up. And then all day long, I kept hearing, it was like, I can't believe you're still awake. I can't believe you haven't slept. And part of being a professional. Also helps that I don't have to dress and go into the office and look presentable. So that was a mitigating factor. I could set up camp next to the coffee maker and get my work done in that proper fashion. But no, it's... And then I was just enjoying it too this morning. It was early. It was probably 8 o'clock or so. And I'm starting to get feeds from Fort Lauderdale Beach. And somebody had, there's a couple, there's the world famous Elbow Room bar right there. It's on the corner of Los Olas and A1A. They have live cameras. So you can always see what kind of mayhem is taking place there.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody picked up on one of the cameras. There's one of the players. I mean, it was, far away shot, but he's walking down the sidewalk with the Stanley Cup at like 8 in the morning.
What?
And then, and then somebody else had video. I don't know if it was a team member or something, but there was like 4 guys on a big golf cart with the Stanley Cup in the back with them, riding down to the beach. They all congregated at the Elbow Room and just partied all morning. They were on the second level, filling it up with beer and then pouring it down on the fans below and taking it down to the beach, jumping in the water with it. It was, just that kind of not giving a damn. There's one beautiful shot too of, I want to say it was Stenland in the locker room. He is stretched out. They have a rolling ice box with all the champagne and beer in it. He's stretched out across it in full uniform, cigar in hand. And it was just, it was that kind of thing. I was just soaking all of that in for a good spell. So I really came into last night thinking if they didn't win this game and win this cup, I probably would not see him do it because I'm pretty sure we're going to lose at least one, if not 2 key players to free agency this summer, just out of reality's sake. Two big names I can think of are up for free agency, and I don't think we can afford both of them. So that could be a possible issue, but no, it's love this team. It's just such a well put together. I've written about it, how our GM put this team together. There's no flaws anywhere. All 4 lines are good. Defense, goalie, you name it. The coaching staff is great, and they earned this. They truly did.
I'll give you this. You actually write about this team with love. It's almost like a Harlequin romance, but sports. Seriously, I'm like I said, I enjoy watching it. I don't know a lot of the rules. I know the important ones and everything. I just enjoy it. I don't have a particular um, team, that I consider to be, my number one or anything like that. I used to, as you well know, I used to have one, but then he moved to LA and married that chick from American Anthem. But anyway, moving on. After Wayne Gretzky, broke my heart, I just said, forget it. And so for me, it was just, it's just a fun game to watch. And then you would write about it, and I'd be like completely immersed in every single minutiae that you were putting down. And after reading, I think you've written about them how many times now? This past season? I think you had 3 columns.
A couple of times. I mean, I did one about the general manager and how he put the team together, and then I think I covered one of the playoffs.
That one was like, this should be a documentary. That's what this should be. And then the next one was like, oh, this is a love story.
Well, it is, because I mean, what Bill Zito did was just, I mean, he transformed the whole attitude. He came in. There were core elements as far as the players are concerned, but he brought in various players that fed to the locker room. It wasn't so much of what they can do on the ice, but how they fit in with the whole composite of the team. And then he just shocked everybody when they won the President's Trophy that's best record in the entire NHL. And they had an interim head coach that basically ran the show for 85-90% of the season. And he doesn't retain him and brings in Paul Maurice, and everybody just stepped back and like, why? We just had the best record. Why would you do this? And in 2 seasons, Paul Maurice has brought him to the Stanley Cup twice. It's just, every single movie he's made has been that. And Paul Maurice is such an amazing guy. I mean, he has coached the most wins in NHL history before winning the Cup last night.
That's impressive.
But he's a great personality. I mean, when they interview him on the bench during the game, like when there's a TV timeout and the girl scurries over and asks him a couple questions, and it's not like, we're just going to keep our pace and stay out of the penalty box. No, he sits there and talks to her for a couple of minutes, and he's like having fun during a game, and he's so self-effacing and also curses like a sailor on the bench at the same time. And last night they were talking to him. They were doing an interview after the game about everything, and then one of the players came up, and it was the first time he grabbed the cup, and he's like, I got to take a break because somebody's coming, and all of a sudden he's clutching it, and he bent over, and you could see him mouthing some words, but then he kissed it and raised it over his head. You're like, so what'd you say, Paul? He's like, I can't even say it on the air because I just addressed the trophy that I was unable to touch all this time. So basically he's like, I finally own you, motherfucker. Something of that nature.
That's awesome.
But I mean, just the kind of guy he is. He's you want him to win is what it comes down to. And he deserved it. So many on his team deserved it. It was great. They had Kyle Okposo they brought in at the trade deadline. He's been in the league, I want to say like 17 years or something. He's been in the playoffs maybe 3 times. And he gets his name on the cup. That was great. And just seeing this team in general, the way it was built, put together, the way they operate. I mean, Paul Maurice says it all the time. He's like, my job was done in February because that locker room is just such a unit. He's like, everybody in there is all of one. And he's like, I don't even have to do anything. If I say something, they all do it. If I need something, they all do it. And it's just the way it worked. And that's how it was put together. And it was fantastic to see. I mean, throughout these playoffs, I felt nothing but confidence that they were going to get here.
There's also, the matter of, the first. Evan is the first Evan to be inscribed upon the Stanley Cup. In the how many years has this thing been? He is the first Evan.
Yeah, I want to say I should know this. I want to say it's like the 85th, something like that. 85 years of this.
So ridiculous amount of years. Yes. Yeah. And,
you're just saying that because he's Hispanic.
No, I say it because it's Evan, and there's no other Evan.
But that's the other thing too. I would say the
same thing if it were, some other weird name like Chichi or whatever. But
Clyde,
Joaquin.
No, but he's actually, he's one I love because when they brought him in the offseason last year, it's like, oh man, they got one of the kids from Boston University. But he's also a great character player. I mean, he had an amazing playoffs, not necessarily statistically, but he just performed. And he ended up being the top goal scorer in the finals, which nobody really saw that coming. But they kept moving him up the lines, too. He was usually a third liner. And after one game where he got 2 goals, they moved him up to the top line. And I think he was playing on the second line last night. But he had a key assist on the first goal, an amazing one by Verhaeghe. I mean, one of those, it was like a 90-mile-per-hour slap shot. He intentionally deflected it down through the goalie and scored that way. That always amazes me that they can do that. So yeah, I've been both dragging my ass and floating at the same time.
Euphoric. Absolutely euphoric.
But at the same time, I've had extremely serious work at hand.
Of course.
Ripping CNN a new asshole.
Well,
Jake Tapper.
Yeah. I know and this one is lengthy, but since we're still talking about sportsing, I have to get my 2 cents in because apparently I found another penny.
Oh.
Yeah, and I'm not happy about that penny. That penny, it's a bad penny.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, well, yesterday was very euphoric for you because your team won, and unfortunately, my team, Texas A&M Aggies, lost to the Tennessee Volunteers at the Men's Collegiate World Series. And but no rancor because not many people are aware of this, but Texas A&M has a special relationship with Tennessee ever since we went into the SEC, and that is due to the fact that we recognize Tennessee as being the state that sent the most volunteers to the Alamo. That's why they're called the Volunteers, and and so we have a very special relationship. So for us, Tennessee actually is they're cool. Regardless of who was going to win here, it was going to be a good thing. Neither team had gone to the World Series. So it was, everybody was like cheering each team on, but both sides were like, regardless of who wins, we both made it here and this is amazing, right? And so Tennessee won and we thought that was great, blah, 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 and everything. And then the other shoe dropped. And I am not a very happy camper because our coach, Jim Schlossnagel, who came from TCU, I believe, or was it Tech? One of the two. Either way, he has opted to leave for University of Texas. And nobody can figure out why. Here's a man, he's been there 3 years. He insisted on renovations at Bluebell Stadium because he did not feel comfortable playing there. So the entire station was revamped to his specifications. We gave him a package deal that was incredible. He gets our team all the way to the Collegiate World Series, and today he decides to leave.
Which is actually amusing because he pulled a Saban.
Yes, he did.
I did see this because after you alerted me, I was like, oh, damn it, they did. Because the game was on, the baseball game, when I got to the tavern last night, about an hour before puck drop. But, they change it pretty quick because they put every single TV on a hockey game. But
I've had no less than 10 people contact me either by text or by message or, because they're all like, what's going on? We don't understand this. I mean, 2 of them are from Tennessee. They don't get it. And I'm like, I have no idea. I honestly thought we gave him everything he asked for and then some. He has a team that went all the way to the World Series. And if I recall, not a lot of them are leaving, actually. Most of the, players are coming back next year. So, and he has gone to UT. Now, had he left for any other school, I would have been okay. I really would have been, because I understand that sometimes the package might be really, really good, or if you're not originally from the area and you want to go back home or closer to where you grew up or whatever, I get it. But this is not one of those times. And the fact that he did it the day after and without warning or anything has left a really, really sour taste.
Well,
And
this is
now,
how he's like Saban, because
yes,
you
exactly.
say that he built up, the stadium. He had all these specs, just like Saban did when he was coach of the Miami Dolphins. And then every time the media would ask him a question, he's like, "Look, I know you have to ask these questions, but son of a bitch." And he was getting angry with them after the game and said, "I left my family. I had to do all this." And one of the reporters actually noted, is like, he got so incensed and angry, but at no point in time did he actually deny he was leaving. And then sure enough, this morning he's leaving.
But here's the thing, he was probably going to get a lifetime contract. We just Aggies raised $80 million to revamp Bluebell Park. Okay. That is a tremendous feat. But, when Aggies decide, hey, we got to keep him and whatever, we motivate ourselves to donate. We really do. And I thought maybe he got a pro gig, and then I heard he went to UT, and I'm like, that makes even less sense now, because Austin is not one of his favorite places. Yeah, and I was right the first time. It was TCU. And the thing is, he had been at TCU for quite a while, over a decade, I think. And then he came over to A&M. He built up his empire to the specs that he requested, and we gave him all of the stuff, and now he's leaving. And I'm like, this is why whenever our school athletic programs decide to hire somebody, we have deep trust issues. We really have deep trust issues. And I'm not even kidding. I'm just like, I don't trust anybody. I mean, I don't. And I was one of the people that I was talking to. He had just talked to Chuck, a mutual who played for the Yankees, and can't make head or tail of this either. He's like, "What the hell?" He's like, and the thing is, there's a lot. Each sports program has their own booster, and so you have a lot of boosters that are completely blindsided here, and they're like, now they have to scramble to get somebody to come in. I mean, this is the middle of summer. They need to start training already for school. So I'm not sure how this is going to play out, but I can tell you this: at least the Olympians are winning.
Well, that's
because they decided to take air conditioners to Paris.
Yeah, this is beautiful. The French authorities decided to go greener. I mean, it is so stupid. It is so freaking stupid. But Europe is going through a heat wave, we're led to believe.
Yeah,
they have temperatures creeping up into the 80s. The amusement here is, that, but they're in a different climate. They're not used to this. It's like, fine, they're not used to it. They're not dying in the streets at 82 degrees. I'm sorry, but I mean, they have news reports of, people dipping their head in public fountains to stay alive and things of this nature. It's like, it's 82. Oh. Okay, that's March in Florida.
It's so ridiculous because they were showing the Trocadero fountain, which is across from the Eiffel Tower, and people in there, just splashing themselves and everything because it is so hot. They do this year round. I've seen them do this year round. As a matter of fact, even in wintertime, they'll go in there just for kicks.
Yeah.
It's standard. It's like a free swimming pool for them. So when I was in Paris, I went in there. I dipped my feet and everything, and I even have a picture to prove it. But this is standard. This happens regardless of the temperature, because I've seen people do it when it was in the 40s. I've seen people do it when it was in the 80s. They do it. It for them. It's like fun. So for them to actually start saying, "Oh, we are so hot that we have to dip ourselves in the pool, into the fountains and all that stuff." Please. They do it all
But
over Italy. They do it all over Germany. They do it all over Paris. They'll do it everywhere.
but over there, they're just trying to insist that this is a health crisis of sorts. Because every time you give them conflicting information, such as we're only 82 in America and nobody's dying in the streets. Yeah, but you don't understand. It's like, okay, 40 years ago, central air conditioning was not a thing. And people were not dying in the streets in Florida when it was 95 with matching humidity. Yeah, but you don't understand. And every step of the way. Now, the latest I've heard is that their buildings are constructed in a fashion to combat the cold and trap heat so they can survive winter. And now it's trapping heat in summer. It's like, okay, well, then how about going outside? I mean, if that's really the case, which it's not, but they don't
No,
have
it's not.
cross-ventilation and all
I
this
lived
other
in Germany.
nonsense.
I didn't have air conditioning. The house was cool during the day because that they're constructed in such a manner, and they use cinder block. They're well insulated. It's all a lie.
Yeah.
Just like the whole thing with the maps. What used to be green is now uber red and orange. And
I
you're like,
love those.
the
They
world is
have,
on fire. What? No, it's 70 degrees.
these are contrasting weather report images where the woman is standing in front of a map with all the temperatures. One of the maps is green. The other one is bright orange or red across Europe. Yet the temperatures are nearly identical from 5 years ago to today. So what was 24 degrees Celsius 5 years ago is now deadly 24 degrees C.
Yeah, and it's what kills me is that Paris is now hosting the Olympics, and they decided to become the greenest Olympics. Now, this is apparently like a competition, because each Olympics beforehand claims to want to be the greenest Olympics, right? So they try to one up and the one previous.
Each other.
Yes, and so one of the things that they were not going to allow was air conditioning, because they wanted to cut down on carbon emissions. Now, keep in mind that they have diesel generators for the to run the electricity for cars for charging and all that stuff, because they're going to have electric vehicles to tote people from one place to another in the Olympic Village. So I'm like, yeah, okay, carbon neutral. I don't think so. But that was their claim. They wanted to keep carbon emissions down. And the US said, no, we're taking our own air conditioning units. That's not going to play with us. And I can understand, because some of our athletes do come from the northern part of the US, where it's a far more temperate climate than, let's say, Florida or Texas.
No, I know exactly why they're doing this.
I get it.
Because the United States flag is red, white, and blue. There ain't no green in it.
This is true. This is true. And so
we're bringing our own AC units.
But we're not the only ones. In defense, we are not the only ones. We do have probably the largest contingent of athletes, but we are not the only country who is bringing their own air conditioning units. Britain, they're all taking air conditioning units. Italy, Germany, Australia. So, and Australia's in the middle of winter right now. So, which I find extremely humorous. But they're all bringing their own AC units, and without actually doing something, there's no way that the Olympic Committee can stop them from doing so, because it is a personal item that you're allowed to bring personal items of your choice, and so there's nothing that the Olympic Committee can do. But I did find it very humorous that was one of the steps that they wanted to take in the middle of them screaming about the heat wave, which is non-existent. Now you have, oh, you don't need air conditioning. We're gonna use cooling pipes underneath the floors. So the pipes are gonna run cool water under the floors to keep you cool. And I'm like, what? Okay. All right, this is not gonna work for me.
Yeah, because that was kind of the old, I don't know, architectural trick here in Florida, where the homes had terrazzo floors, which is like a glazed cement, and it has pieces of shell and mother of pearl and stuff in it.
That is
quasi
the
decoration.
quintessential. Yeah.
But that's the reason for that is because those are actually cold trapping floor. Like in the middle of summer, you would lay on the floor like, oh man, God, it feels so good.
Oh, that's all we have in Puerto Rico is the terrazzo. And what I find interesting was terrazzo is like the cheap stuff. And now it's coming in vogue. And there are companies paying out the wazoo to put this in people's houses. I kid you not.
It's funny. My best friend, when he moved into their place, they were doing some renovations and they were going to pull up all the carpeting and put down some new kind of flooring. And then they saw there was terrazzo down and they were like, no, we want to keep that. So they did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now they're fashionable and they saved a crap ton of money.
Yep. Everything old is new again. I keep saying.
But yeah, speaking of the Olympics, I saw this funny, pathetic and funny comment. Some self-important race hustler saw the photograph of the U.S. swim team, and it brought us back to the reality of Jim Crow era America. Because apparently of the 40 or 45, whatever swimmers were pictured, only about 4 or 5 of them were African-American in nature. And this calls back to the segregation of swimming areas in this country. And they haven't had Jim Crow in this nation since the 40s. And they're going to say that this is the reason there's no black swimmers. I mean, I don't know of any place in America right now where blacks are forbidden from going in the swimming pool.
I don't either. Now there is.
And they talk about it, and this is denied access, and this is just emblematic of the fact that facilities are not made available to the black community. Where in the black community are you not allowed to swim? I mean, granted, maybe you don't have a municipal swimming pool in every neighborhood, but lakes exist and canals and other things too. And for the most part, you can go to a swimming pool and swim. And nobody's saying
most towns have a community swimming pool.
Yeah. So this is absolute garbage. But what cracked me up, I was just, for point of context, I decided to go check in on the men's basketball team because I figured, the 1 or 2 white guys would be not a single white person.
I didn't think there were. I thought they were all African-American. Which
is only emblematic of the fact that whites have been denied access to public basketball courts.
Mm-hmm.
This is just emblematic of the cruel nature of Caucasians being prevented from shooting hoops in this country. That's how stupid this is. I got so little tolerance for these idiots. You just are so damn desperate for racism to exist. It's like the fewer examples of it, the louder they get. I mean, like Jamil Hill and others, they just have to complain about something being racist somewhere. Like sports is the most egalitarian process in this country.
Well, that's
It's
just it. Being in the Olympics, it's supposed to be a complete meritocracy.
yes,
You
and
get
it's
there by merit, not because of the color of your skin.
like you don't hear white people saying, "Man, there's just not enough of us in the NFL. Look at all these blacks running around doing well." No, they're like saying, "Sign that son of a bitch. I want him on my team." It's like that. It's not. That's the part that cracks me up. It's like they don't complain about the racial imbalance of the NBA or the NFL. They still want to try to with the NHL. Oh, it's such a hard thing for blacks to get into. It's like, well, no, there's just far fewer blacks in Canada than America, for one thing. I mean, it's
It's
just a
also
fact.
a question of the culture that you grow up in. I mean, we in Puerto Rico, we're like, what the hell is hockey? I mean, seriously,
Mm-hmm.
you skate on ice on purpose?
Yeah.
Whereas, you know what, you give us boxing and I could tell you every single boxer for every weight class, their stats and everything. It's just the culture we happen to be in.
Well,
And
then maybe answer this question for me, Aggie, if you're such an expert. If they fight in a square, why is it called a ring?
why are you the way you are?
Well, because I'm
I
white
don't
and I'm
know.
ignorant about the sport because I've been denied access to boxing gyms all my life.
If it's round, why did they call it Madison Square Garden?
See, there you go. Or if they're playing hockey, it's a rounded rhombus, isn't it? So what the hell? It's oval. I mean, I just laugh anymore at these people that take themselves that seriously. Hey, speaking of race,
Okay, I can't wait for this. What?
I'm going to crack open my refrigerator and grab me a gallon of intolerance.
Oh. Yeah, I gotta pour some intolerance on my, Cheerios.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess if you have your coffee black and pour milk into it, then you're diluting I don't know what the hell. They're actually doing a study in Britain.
Yes.
Why am I suddenly envisioning a parody though? Pour some intolerance on me. Oh wait, never mind.
There you go. Start crafting the lyrics, and you're onto something. Might even be like the new Schoolhouse Rock.
Funny thing is, AI can do it all for you now if you want to. So
well, there you go. Yeah, plug in the keywords, and we're gonna have our own School Rock. Lolly, 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 get your racism here.
I think it's uber ridiculous. This whole milk is racist crap.
They're going to perform a study in Britain about the intolerant racism of milk.
And see, this is where they're already failing because they're only targeting one type of milk. Cow's milk.
Well,
and this is and one thing that they're leaving out is that yes, there are certain cultures in Africa, in India, in the Far East, whatever, that shows some certain part lactose intolerance. But here's the thing: that's because they didn't have cows to drink milk from. Now, that's not to say there aren't any cows where these people are at. It's just that cows traditionally were considered part of the bride price or the dowry. So, they were considered a status symbol. Most of the milk, believe it or not, would come from goats or camels. And this is what a lot of people don't understand. Yeah, you can get camel's milk if you want to, sheep's milk, goat's milk. There are different types of milks, but they're only focusing on this one. And they're forgetting one important thing. There was a time when Great Britain was all over the fucking place. The sun never set on the British Empire. That was the saying.
Right.
So of course they would take cows because most of those people only drank cow's milk. They did not drink camel milk. Okay. But that's not to say that milk is racist.
Yes, it is, Aggie, because experts are asking whether milk is racist as part of a research project into the connections between milk and colonialism. The dark underbelly of dairy, I guess, is what they're going. What the?
I'm stunned that there's money being spent on this. Honestly,
I'm stunned
Actually,
that we
I
haven't
shouldn't be.
done this. We need to do something. We need to cut. Something is racist, and we should have somebody pay
You know
us
what?
to come
You
out
know
and
what?
say,
I got it. We need to study the racism behind licorice.
well, you know,
Dude,
what
we
was
could make bank on this. You know
I
it? And I
did.
know it.
I covered a Washington Post piece last October where the writer was covering the genocidal nature of nutmeg because it only comes from one island in the South Pacific or something. And in the 1600s, I think the Dutch fleets that found the island took over the inhabitants and then forced them into labor. And this is how we get nutmeg. And now you put nutmeg in your pumpkin spice, you racist sons of bitches. It's like 600 damn years ago. And you're going to call me a racist for going to Starbucks and having a latte. Go pound sand, you piece of. This is the same kind of crap, though. I mean, we should, we can come up with something in the liquor cabinet's got to be racist. I'm sure. I mean, I've heard about the slave trade needed to produce rum, so yeah, my pina colada is now hateful and racist. But yeah, I don't know, like maybe Aperol or something like that can be deemed intolerant and the elitist inherent systemic racism of cordials.
It's just it's almost as if they're looking for any excuse for any white item to be racist. Like Stephen points it out, the Maasai are famous for their cattle. I mean, it's so ridiculous. I just can't with these people.
But that's the thing is, it's not because milk is white. It was that the academics in Oxford were looking into this and determining that the exportation of bovine and its milk products. Okay, for one, nobody's forcing you to drink milk. if you're lactose intolerant, it's not like there was a mandate from the crown. Have you had your 8 ounces today? You know, no, nobody was doing
Most of
that.
Sometimes certain people would actually take a cow with them in their travels because the wife had had a baby. She could not lactate, so they needed a cow for milk. Now, the cow was there not just for the milk, but in the eventuality that they would need meat as well. It's a large enough animal that it could feed pretty much everybody on the voyage as well. You can't do that with a goat. A goat will feed maybe 5-6 people, depending on the size of the goat. Right. So a goat, whereas it would be handier to have a goat because it is more maneuverable and smaller, you have to think of the reality when it came to providing food for the rest of the crew and everybody that was on board a ship. So that's why the cow came into the picture. If they're going down this whole lactose intolerance thing, guess what? It works in reverse. A lot of people in Europe and in America and in South America cannot drink camel milk for the same reason. Gee, you'll see that they will not go down that rabbit hole because it's not convenient to the narrative.
Yeah, well, it'll be probably considered racist if you don't drink camel milk because then you're eschewing the native animals. I guess I don't. This is how stupid these things get, though. Your mind can go to these places and find racism. You know,
If you Well, I remember from the movie Pollyanna, which, you know, that's why I'm such a Pollyanna. I love that film. But she used to wear a necklace that her father had given her. And inside it, it said, if you go looking for the bad in people, expecting to find it, you surely will. And this applies to almost everything. If you go looking for racism in something, you'll find it. You'll have to twist and bend and curdle and just go dark, but yeah, you'll find it eventually. I had some woman talk. There was one lady who said that, you know, the same guy who is now the head coach for the LA Lakers called her the N word when she was in school over in North Carolina or wherever it was that she was at. And I'm like, really? And you're just now coming out and saying it? And you had 15 years to say something and you didn't? And, you know, you have a lot of people being very skeptical on her tweet and a lot of people being very supportive on her tweet. And you could draw the line between the supportive ones and the skeptical ones by race. You really could. And that's where we're at right now. I mean, it didn't used to be this way, but every single person out there with a narrative has to be on the lookout for racism in everything, including your favorite morning drink.
Yeah, and I'm pretty certain that, I don't know, orange juice is probably racist in some capacity too. And we
Oh my
probably
God. Of course.
probably
The
stole the seeds
mandarins.
from
Hello. The Chinese mandarins.
and then
There you go.
well, already the sugar cane is harsh because they use migrant labor and they treat them very, very poorly and that kind of crap. It's
Please. They know
literally you
nothing.
can find a problem, like you said.
They're
And if it's not there, you'll invent it. So now milk
exactly.
is racist. Not all milk, though. British milk brought to other countries is colonialism in and of itself isn't racist. It just so happens almost every single person in Britain at the time was white. Ergo, it's a white incursion taking place. But nonetheless, they're not saying you're going to drink the white man's milk from this day forward. No. It just, people need this. They need
They have
some
a need
level
in
of
order
outrage.
yes, they need the level of outrage. They need to keep the outrage high, just like the government needs to keep the state of fear high. That's how you control narratives and that's how you get to control people. So,
But we have this taking place in the country right now. That, like over the weekend, not one, but in two areas of the country, opposite coasts, New York and Los Angeles, they actually had people physically attacking Jewish people. Like
this is technically a pogrom. That's what's going on.
But they're going to these organized. One was a graduation ceremony for Jewish students, and the other was at a synagogue in Los Angeles. And the protesters were out there confronting these people. A woman in New York was beaten in the street by these people. In Los Angeles, numerous fights and violence broke out. And what's driving me crazy is this. Well, a couple of things. One, in Los Angeles, the police were there, and it almost looked like they were protecting the protesters. Like they weren't intervening on the violence.
I believe the mayor told the LAPD not to get involved, to just observe. So as the protests grew hectic and very violent, the Jewish population who had been at the synagogue not to actually partake in worship, but they were there to talk about real estate issues, international real estate issues. And so they were basically pushed out, and then the protesters went after them in their own neighborhoods. And because the police was not going to get involved, the Jewish population decided to take matters into their own hands, and they started fighting back. And that's when people started getting upset, because the Jews actually had the gall to defend themselves. How dare they? I mean, seriously, that's how people are thinking right now. They're supposed to, you know what? You pretend to be a victim, you're going to be a victim, and you're going to have to take it.
But
That's
this is
pretty
what's
much
driving me
what they're
crazy.
saying.
The media approach to this is completely hands off. Like, they're not outraged about this at all. I'm seriously waiting for the report that'll come out and say this is mostly peaceful anti-Semitism.
And the reason that they're staying quiet is that they have basically just printed themselves into a corner. They cannot be in support of anybody who is in support of Israel for fear of what the other side will do to them, because they have supported the other side forever.
Well, there's numerous layers to what's going on here. One is which they can't report on the violence accurately because that will be taking place under Joe Biden's watch. Joe Biden, who, by the way, famously put out the comment that all violence taking place under Donald Trump's term is his responsibility.
Yeah.
But somehow Joe's exonerated from the current violence. But also this complete explosion of anti-Semitism is taking place and not being addressed. After they were cherry picking, they were desperate to find any example of anti-Semitism and attach it to Trump. Just like they had to look for it randomly. Here's one. Guy spray painted a synagogue. That's anti-Semitism. That's Trump's fault. Donald Trump, whose immediate family members are Jewish, by the way.
Oh, yes.
This always gets ignored. But those words like, another example of anti-Semitism and hate, this time in Phoenix, where somebody stole the welcome mat in front of a synagogue. Right now, we have dozens of college campuses with anti-Jewish protests taking place. We have this violence just building and growing. I mean, for any example that they came up with over 4 years of Trump, you could find in one weekend, and it eclipsed right now, and they're not upset about it.
No. I think this is all, they're just sitting back and waiting for this to, well, it's not going to blow over.
No.
But it will blow. And
But
they don't want to be involved in it because they were complicit.
What was it? November, I want to say it was. When Donald Trump used a single word, he said the word vermin. Oh my God, Hitler used that word once. Donald Trump is a Nazi. Literally, that's what he said, a single word, and he was an anti-Semite Nazi.
You know what other words he used? He used climate. That was a big word with Hitler. Yeah, I know.
Well, what gets intentionally lost in it all is they kept saying that he called his political opponents vermin. No, actually, he specifically said communists, socialists, and fascists are vermin in this country. In other words, he was calling Nazis vermin. That proves he's a Nazi. Wait. And this is the kind of nonsense going on in the press. So they're so desperate to call him a Nazi, they're ignoring blatant, hateful anti-Semitism. I mean, protests, every time I look at a protest now, there's somebody speaking out. It's not just, from the river to the sea anymore. So we got to exterminate these sons of bitches and get our land back. I mean, they're saying this. And the press is like, well, First Amendment, that kind of crap. That's the maddening part. It's like, 3 years ago, this pissed you off no end. Oh, it's different with a capital D in parentheses.
With a D. Different with a D. That's exactly it.
But mentioning my favorite topic, the media.
The media.
They are. CNN is on the verge of a deeply, massively, wildly significant defamation case going on. And nobody in the press is talking about this except me, Nick Fondacaro over at Newsbusters. He and I are going back and forth on this for the past week or so. Gradually, we're starting to see some other outlets touching on this story, but this is freaking huge. I wrote about it last week at Red State, and tomorrow morning I got a follow-up talking about just how expansive this is getting. But let's flash back to the Dominion voting system defamation suit against Fox News.
Yeah, Yeah.
Massive,
times.
right? 787 million they paid out as a settlement to avoid a defamation ruling. CNN is possibly on the hook for more. What makes this so ironic? No, that's not the word I'm looking for. Delicious.
Delicious.
Is that when that defamation case was settled, Jake Tapper was particularly just, I mean, full of insults and derision. He was reading the official statement from Fox about the settlement. And he was on performance level 5. He was, laughing and smirking and, oh, I can't even read this seriously. They take their journalism seriously. Oh my God, Fox News actually said that. He was literally in this mode. Where do they get off calling themselves journalists, those sons of bitches? And just, condescension central from Jake Tapper. Well, it was about a week or two ago, I found this lawsuit cropping up in Florida here, where a private contractor, he's worked out of Europe, actually. He was a former military vet, and now he works as a private contractor, helping basically evacuating people out of troubled areas. And he was working in Afghanistan during that fateful collapse that they refused to hold Joe Biden responsible for. And this contractor was doing the same thing. He would, people would pay him a fee to help extricate them from the hot zone.
Mm-hmm.
And CNN just ripped this guy up. His name is Zachary Young. I've spoken to him and his lawyers now regarding this case. And basically, he's telling me what they did, and I'm telling him what they were doing at the same time because I'm so familiar with the practice. He's like, holy crap, yes, that's what they did. So they basically approached him with the concept that, we're doing some background on, this kind of work that you do and others. And, if we can get some insights from you to frame our story. He's like, yeah, sure. And he's explaining things and what he does. Well, it turned out this was a targeted hit piece on him.
Yep.
And in typical fashion, they built the entire story. And then at the 11th hour came to him for comment, one of those tricks that they always play in the media these days.
Yeah, 20 minutes still.
Yeah, they basically, when they were hitting him up for, hardcore comments and such, it was like, okay, I got a hard deadline in like 2 hours. So what can you give us? This is after building the case for days on end with their producers and such. And then when he saw what they were doing, he tried to contact the reporter. Alex, what is it? Alex Narquart is his name. Some pretty odd pronunciation, but he, wouldn't entertain any further commentary from Zach, and they ran with this hit piece and basically slammed him. And they were talking about how he operates in the black market and he overcharges people fees that they can't afford to get him out, as if he's not risking his own life going into militarized zones to extract people. They make it sound like he pulled up in a bus and said, oh, that'll be $5,000. No, it's a little more complicated than that. It's a little more involved. And there's a ton of other people doing the exact kind of work he did. So, yeah, he decided he wants to bring a defamation suit. Well, he got internal documents from CNN during disclosure process, and holy crap, what he found is staggering. First off, they had numerous people in the editorial process saying this report is flawed. We don't have the goods. The facts aren't there. We can't run. Their digital division said, we're not going to run this story because it's just, no, he needs more information. We have to delay this a few days or something, get more information because there's not enough. And the production side was like, no, we're going to put it on the air during Jake Tapper's show, The Lead. Of all people. And so this report comes out, and all over the place, they're calling him a black marketeer and other things. Totally, they did. This was ran, I think, in 2021, right? Is that when the Afghan expulsion took place? Is the first year of Joe Biden's term. So basically, they killed his business. And in the internal documents, they actually are saying it's not just that the story was flawed and they ran it. They actually went after this guy. They have communications between producers and the reporter and such. Like, yeah, this son of a bitch, we got to go nail him, put him out of business. This is your grave, Zach. You're done. That kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Like,
Discovery
literally,
was fun.
They played activism and we're going to kill this guy's career.
Yeah, they were no
And
longer
yeah.
reporters. They found a target and they wanted to destroy that target. That's what they do now. They don't report facts. They don't report news. They don't do what they were supposed to be doing. Journalism is dead.
Well, I won't say it's dead, but I mean, what cracks me up though is every single thing Jake Tapper was condemning Fox News. They don't have editorial oversight. They don't take this. This isn't journalism. They purposely put fake news and lies on the air. All of it. Every single thing he complained about appears in the court documents of this case. I mean, you name a projection of the highest order going on. And it cracks me up so much because of all the collective news industry was all over Fox News. They suck. They're not news. That's not journalism. It's like, okay, what about CNN? Yeah, we're not going to cover that.
Yeah, no. And it's amazing because nobody is covering that. And this is huge. Huge.
I'm talking to Zach, was it Sunday morning? No, Saturday morning. And, we were going through all this and, some off the record, some on the record. Here's the legal stuff. He, wanted to make sure I wasn't putting stuff out there that would trip their court case up. And then I said, yeah, I want to be factually accurate too. But basically all the things that even the stuff that he said was off the record is on the record in the court documents. I can cite them. So that's, safe there. And he said that basically they got 3 prongs of punitive damages for the sinking his business and targeting him, emotional distress and punitive damages, which he says that's going to be the big one. This case could conceivably exceed the Dominion settlement total.
I'm so excited.
I mean, that is, because I even
it's
thought
so beautiful.
when I'm talking to him too, I was like, well, maybe, the other media isn't talking about this because it's smaller in scale. It's not up to that. He's like, oh no, this could go way higher. Like what? And he's explaining some of the other details. I was like, well, hell, it sounds to me like CNN's dead to rights and they're going to settle it. He's like, no, they're not. I was like, why? He's like, because I'm not going to let them. He does not want to settle. He's like, I want to go to punitive court and get judgment. And it's not because of the money. He's like, he said, punitive is the word I'm hanging on here. I want punishment to fix this kind of crap. And I was like, geez, dude.
He might end up owning CNN.
Yeah, that would be on par with owning Newsweek. Didn't somebody buy it for like the cover price of a magazine?
I think it was $1. Yeah.
Yeah. It was because they were in so much debt that they had to absorb. It could be the same kind of value point there. But yeah, this is significant. And
Hey, all I'm saying is I'll buy them for $1 and move us all down there. I'm just saying.
well, all right. If your checking account can handle it. see what holds up. But no, this case is going to be something to watch. Me and Nick have been going back and forth about it because when I first found this a little over a week ago, I think I first covered it at Town Hall in my column, and then the next day I did an article, and then I saw Nick was putting one out too. I was like, oh dude, I was just about to send this over to you guys, and he's like, oh, you're on it too. And then we're trading notes a little bit back and forth, and starting to see, I think Fox is starting to touch it now. I think one other outlet I saw today maybe is picking up on it. So it's starting to get out there a little bit, but this is the CNN, of course, doesn't want this out. The broader media isn't touching it. So it's almost like we're going to have to force their hand, it seems like.
By the way, we do have some breaking news through our friends over at Digital Beacon. Jamal Bowman has officially lost his primary and has been called the loser.
There we
Okay.
go. That's
Oh, gee, I'm sorry. That's too bad. So sad.
that's going to raise some alarms. See what I did there?
It should. I see what you did.
Thank you. Drive safely and try to fish, folks. We got 2 shows on Saturday. So yeah, I'm gonna be keeping tabs on this one and keeping in touch with them, and yeah, we'll see. I'm almost at a point now where I just want to see the smug look on Jake Tapper's face.
Disappear or
I'm just like,
smug look
hey,
disappear
Jake.
or just get or the crying.
Are we still calling ourselves journalists over there? Are we? You know, they also have to make us forget the Nick Sandeman settlement.
Yeah, that was big. And he didn't even win all of the lawsuits, but he did win the one for CNN, and his was huge.
Well, they settled, didn't they? I think it was a case
Yes.
where they settled out and they wouldn't reveal what the total was. It was part of the settlement. It's like, I'm sorry, you've done this yourself, you jackasses. And now they're in the midst of it again. But here's Tapper like, oh, Fox News calling themselves journalists. This is to laugh about. I can't tolerate their claim to journalism. They don't have the editorial rigor we do. Like, dude, this case is going on as you say this, jackass. I mean, man. And they even have like they hang their hat on the fact they have what they call the triad inside of CNN.
Mm-hmm.
So any story that's approaching controversy has to get fed into they call it the triad because it's basically a 3-point vetting process. It goes through editorial, legal, and then standards and practices. And despite the fact that so many people on the staff were saying this story is garbage, they don't have the facts, somebody described it as being 80% emotion, talking about the news report. It was 80% emotional and 20% speculative. Like 0 facts involved, right? And it goes to the triad, and they were like, yep, go run it. And I even saw supporting court documents where CNN employees were saying, how the hell did the people in the triad let this get through in this condition? I mean, that spells it out right there. It's like, this is supposed to be the high point vetting of a story. And people below it are like, what are you doing? No. So
That's incredible.
I'm just almost at a point of laughing, but it's like, holy crap, this is serious. And nobody wants to touch it. It's like, well, Brad's going to touch it.
Touch it. I want to touch it.
Poke.
Giggity, giggity goo. Stick around.
Wow.
Well, we were talking at length about my impaired condition
Yes.
at the start of the show. You know, it's just kind of. I almost want to say I would resent the implication, but I should say I resent the accuracy.
You resemble the implication.
How dare you be accurate?
Yeah.
Well, I want to have you just know that, Aggie, you and I are gorgeous. Especially me at the moment.
I'm the one that wakes up with this face. I'm not sure what you mean.
Well, here's what I mean. According to scientists, because again, I always like to bring the broadening of minds and the medical
We're
mental
sciencey here.
edification for our listeners here. Scientists say that attractive people are more likely to have drinking problems.
I resent that.
I don't have a drinking problem. I
don't either.
I have a drinking problem. I'm just gorgeous.
You're beautiful. You're beautiful.
Shut up. Look at me.
My only problem is when the drinking stops. I have no problem with the drinking.
See, I
Good
always
point.
approach it from the opposite angle. It's like the more you drink, the better looking other people become, i.e., beer goggles. But no, this is according to scientists that while being attractive can have its perks, better looking people may be more likely to develop problems with alcohol. Increased levels of risky behavior in young people, such as partying more and drinking more alcohol, have been linked to a high level of physical attractiveness. And I guess it's obligatory at this point that we have to reference the social media craze of the weekend, the Hawk Tua girl,
Oh Lord.
which
She
seems to
managed.
fit in here.
Let's face it. She managed to dislodge Pride Month. I mean, nobody's talking about Pride anything except for one thing that I was going to bring up. But
No, everybody's still talking about Pride. They're just wishing they could be proud to have her as their girl. Man,
Although
Okay.
I doubt her father is proud at the moment.
No.
I'm still, I mean, I had to pull up the video just because everybody, I think it was by Sunday, everybody was just all over this. And people were fabricating the Hawk Tua 24 election hats.
I've seen the hats. I've seen the shirts. I've seen. Oh my Lord!
Like, what in the hell is all this? So I see the video, and it's like, I mean, it was like a 20-second video clip, like an interview on the street, and this girl could not be more country, and she's just, proudly talking about how she performs fellatio, and wow, okay.
Why would you do that?
I don't understand I'm at a loss as the whole basis of this. I was like, what was this on a show? What did he ask her to provoke this response? It's a 20-second clip. So
I can explain part of it. So she's a TikToker. He's also a TikToker. He does man on the street interviews. That's all he does on TikTok. So they ran into each other and all hell broke loose because they both performed for the camera is exactly what happened.
Well, she performs elsewhere too, apparently. But
so it was a crossing of the streams, as it were.
Pretty much.
But see, and this is one thing that I cannot stress enough with the social media influencer. You have to be careful. You're working on a brand, and that brand could affect your place of employment if you work outside of that brand. I mean, some influencers don't, but a lot of them do. And you have to be cognizant of who can see this and how old they are, or where they, if they're connected to you, if you connect this to your work, things of that nature. And I mean, I know that it's funny and everybody thinks it's awesome and it's cute and everything. But the tragedy is she had to delete all her social media accounts. And as I understand it, she also lost her job because of it. So
she did not, actually. That was actually a hoax perpetrated.
Oh, thank God. Okay, that's good. But I've seen where social media influencers will say something controversial or racy or just NC-17 or whatever, and word will get back to place of employment, and most of the time the employer is not going to deal with this and would rather just terminate you rather than deal with the fallout of something. So,
but at the same time, if she's a TikTok influencer, canceling out her social media is going to deeply impact that aspect of her income.
Correct. So,
well, at least she could keep her job at the Golden Pole Palace or wherever she was working. I'm kidding. Idea. She's not a stripper. I'm just assuming based on content.
So, but like I said, some people thought it was funny. It took off on social media, and personally speaking, I hope it doesn't negatively impact her in the long run. I hope she can weather this. We all remember, I don't even remember his name. Was it Jonathan Chait or somebody was actually did a tweet and they tweeted out the wrong link and it was graphic lesbian sex. Do you remember that?
I
And
don't. What was? Oh crap! What's his name? The one, the guy that.
I mean,
I forgot his name, but he's always known for putting out like 30 and 40 tweet threads, and
yes,
he
yes,
put out a
John something or
screenshot,
other, I
and
want to say, but
yeah, and he had tentacle porn tab visible on his screen. It's like, geez,
yeah,
dude.
and so he came back and said, "Yeah, I tweeted out the wrong thing. Yes, I was looking at porn. Let's move on." And people did. I mean, he owned up to it, and that was it. And it was the same thing with Hugh Grant. He got caught having sex with some hooker or having oral sex with some hooker in a car. He gets arrested, and everybody's like, frantically talking about all of this stuff. And thankfully, this was well before social media became a thing, but it negatively impacted him until he came forward and he was on the Tonight Show and he owned up to his mistake. And he said, and I paid the price for it. I'm a better person now. I understand, that there are certain things, that I do have to, be aware of, as far as being somebody that is prominently out there, has a public face all the time, that kind of thing. And once he did that, it went away. So maybe maybe it'll go away for her as well, or maybe she
Hugh
can
Grant thing
super
made no
capitalize
sense.
this.
At the time, Hugh Grant was with one of the more beautiful women on the planet,
Elizabeth Hurley. Yes, Elizabeth Hurley,
the
who had the body to die for. Mhm.
the exotic no, can't say that, streetwalker that he was caught with was, I'm going to say, lower on the scale of beauty.
Yes, yes. And you have to wonder, why would he go to her if he had Elizabeth Hurley? That's all I'm asking.
Well, she was off on the other continent, you see. He said, whatever. But
Yeah, Divine. Thank you. Divine was her name. So not to be confused with Divine, the drag queen. Yeah.
That's
it's really sad, but the 3 divine people that I know are actually not divine looking. Kind of weird, but okay.
Well, I just figured I would let you know that the scientists found that the more attractive a person is as a teenager, which is rated by the interviewer on a scale of 1 to 5, the more likely they were to drink or binge drink. And this was especially true for attractive women, who were significantly more likely to have drunk alcohol recently. So I just wanted to let you know, you're a babe, Aggie the Bar Babe.
Actually, no, I'm not. I was pretty ordinary. I was an ugly teenager. I was not noticed by guys or anything like that, which is why I have such a really good head on my shoulders now. So I guess.
But you're now in your swan presence, and you're in the signet phase of your life.
You can't even say that with a straight face.
I am. I was just trying to come up with another word for swan, so I had to. I knew it was out there, then I got signet. There you go. So you're a drunk beauty now.
Well, okay, I'll own it. I'll add it to my Aggie the Barkeep bio later.
There you go. You have a scientific study to back it up.
That's right.
Put the link in bio. There you go.
Yep. Whatever. Anyway.
Well, let's see. We're running out of time here. We got crap to cover. Hey, this is one right up your alley. You're one of those people with the master's degree in people, after all, and an archaeology background. Archaeologists found Marge Simpson in a dig. What the hell is this all about?
It's a sarcophagus. And apparently in really good condition. it was a sarcophagus that was painted, and the painting depicts a woman that has yellowish skin and is wearing a green tube top style dress like Marge Simpson, as well as a very tall blue crown that mimics Marge Simpson's hairdo. So,
She got the B-52 hair. Just say it.
yeah, well, the tomb was discovered several months ago, but it wasn't until somebody made mention that it looked like Marge Simpson that it took off on social media. And it was really interesting because it's not a royal. And that's why you get to see her face and her crown and her that what she's wearing and everything like you would a normal person, as opposed to, say, like Tutankhamun, who had the gold headdress, mask and all that stuff, on the tomb and everything. So it's really kind of eerie when you look at it. Supposedly it belonged to the daughter of a high priest. And so high priests were considered very wealthy, well-to-do, but they were still not royalty. But they could have the next best thing, when it came to entombment. So this discovery was actually kind of a big deal because it does detail more about everyday life than, say, Tutankhamun's tomb did. The tomb of a pharaoh is completely different from the tomb of a scribe or a merchant or, in this case, a high priest's kid. Daughter. Outside, looking at this, it's like, oh, we found a really cool tomb, and this is kind of more of a upper middle class person, that kind of thing. They had interesting things in their tomb, everyday objects that most people would associate with, you and me, like stuff that we would have around the house, that kind of thing. That's why these are, in archaeological circles, they're far more important than finding the gold and the stature of a tomb, a high stature tomb or something like that, because they do tell more about everyday living back then. And an archaeologist, that's kind of vital need to know information, in my opinion, right? But, the fact that the lid was so well painted and so well preserved, but the amount of detail that was given to the lid was pretty shocking because it was in such great condition. So I think it's kind of cool that it looks like Marge Simpson, but a lot of like, the higher up you were in status, the more clothing you actually would wear. So this, the fact that she was the daughter of a high priest, that's why she is covered from, her she's covered, but she doesn't have, the shrouds, and she doesn't have the collars, and she doesn't have any of that stuff, which is why it's a more of a middle class, upper middle class type of thing. In my opinion, it was quite a find. Not as good as the other find that they just found in Aswan. So that one's really cool. I can't wait because there's a soap opera brewing and I am here for it. I know that sounds weird, but they found in Aswan, which is a city in Egypt, a bunch of tombs of the Greco-Roman period. They're not Egyptian tombs, they're Greco-Roman tombs. And so, as y'all know, Egyptian artifacts and all that stuff, they're very jealously guarded by the state of Israel, and rightly so, it belongs to them. But by the same token, Italy has first dibs on anything that's Greco-Roman, or rather Roman. Greece has first dibs on anything that's Greek. So to find Greek and Roman things in Egypt, they had to actually bring in Italian archaeologists to help with the excavation because the tombs were not something that Egyptian archaeologists were familiar with. And so they brought them in. And now you're going to have the whole, well, who do these things belong to? And I am here for that because Egypt is always such a little bitch about, oh, this is mine. This is all mine. And I want it back.
So
But,
there's
you know, to be fair,
jurisdictional conflict taking place.
yeah, but, you know, to be fair, because they brought in the Italians, and I'm sure that the Italians will say, well, you know, they were found here, but we would love to bring them back to study and actually display them for a while. So they'll probably play that whole lending thing every 6 months, back and forth type of thing, which they've done before, but not to this scale. I mean, this is, you know, over 30 tombs were found. So, and like I said, these tombs are of regular everyday people, not high stature, not, you know, generals or gladiators or anything like that. It's just regular people. So this is a major archaeological find for that reason, because everyday objects usually got buried with everyday people. And that's where you learn more about the culture than anything.
Oh yeah, I mean, try to imagine 1,000 years from now when somebody's going to start excavating Barbara Streisand's residence and think that's emblematic of America.
Yeah. So I think that that's going to be kind of a fun thing. I'll be keeping watch on it, see what develops. I doubt that it'll get to the point where the British Museum thing all over again. I really doubt that. But I am pretty sure that the British Museum is kind of upset that they were not invited. As a matter of fact, I believe 2 members of the British Museum were kicked off of an excavation site in Egypt because of the fact that Egypt has been asking for certain items to be returned that are at the British Museum, and the British Museum keeps saying no. And it came to a head a few months ago, and they kicked out the people from the British Museum. It has been glorious. So I don't think it's going to be like that with the Italians. I think Egypt just has a special, they really do not like the British Museum. So everybody else is cool except for the British Museum. So, but we'll see. I'll keep tabs on it. But I thought that was kind of funny.
Very, indeed.
Anyway.
Well, do we have to wrap things up here?
Yes, we do, because it's at the top of the hour. So, Brad, why don't you take a deep breath and tell us where we can find you?
I am available to be seen on a daily basis at the VIP section of townhall.com. I've got my daily media column called Rift from the Headlines. Also a regular on the front page of Red State, where, as I said, tomorrow my second CNN defamation piece is coming out. Some more details involved there. Also, you can hear me twice a week at Red State with my own media podcast called Liable Sources, diving even deeper into the muck and mire of the mainstream media. And also on this network, you can hear more of me. Now, this week, we will not have a culture shift. Gasp. Because we got a...
What?
Well, we got a couple of old guys barking at each other Thursday night.
Oh, yeah.
The presidential debate will be held here, so we're going to be having live coverage here.
With Jake Tepper.
Yes. And the unbiased, neutral Dana Bash.
Before you go any further, there's one thing I want to say about that, because does anybody remember when CNN was laughing because Fox News said that nobody else could play their stuff for the debate the first, or like when they did like the debate the first time? CNN saying that now too, even though they were laughing at them when they said it. And all of us are like, fair use, fuck you.
I was going to say, I don't understand why they think that this is it's fair use. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, why would it be exclusive if it's a presidential debate? That's so important for the future and the most important election of our lifetime for the 42nd election in a row. But
right. Anyway, so you were saying no culture shift.
Yes, we'll be doing live coverage of the presidential debate. The Squawk Fest 24 takes place.
Oh, that should be fun.
Probably will. I don't know. It seems like a car wreck. Seems like a wheels up in a ditch moment waiting to happen. So we'll be there covering it live. Also, alternate Thursdays, I'm here with Paul Young from ScreenRant.com. He and I usher you through the dark underbelly and back alleys of Hollywood and bad movies with disasters in the making. And of course, every Tuesday with the ever effervescent Aggie Rican here on the Cocktail Lounge. And then if you need more of me than that, and let's face it, you do, you head over to Jitter. I'm at Martini Shark. And what about you, Aggie? Where can people find more of your magnificence?
Well, you can find me at Aggie Rican and at Aggie the Barkeep. Those are over on X. You can find me 8:30 p.m. Eastern doing the Cocktail Lounge on Tuesdays with the ever suave you. Friday nights, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, doing He Said, She Said with our awesome producer, Rick. Last Wednesday of every month at 8 p.m. Eastern, we do Toxic Masculinity, where Rick, Ordy, G, and Andrew come together and talk about guy stuff. We host the Babe of the Month, and I bring the drink of the evening. And Jeff and I have teamed up, and now we do Spirited Books podcast, first Monday of every month at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. The next installment will be July 1st, so see you there. Thanks for joining us, everyone, and we hope you all have a lovely evening.
And go raise a glass and look at the ceiling.
Are you wanting them to count dots? Is that why you keep asking them to look at the ceiling?